The woman tumbled off the high bar stool, her pristine white linen dress stained with spilt artisanal gin. It was 1:45 a.m. at the Emerald Anchor, a prestigious Dublin seafood restaurant. Brenda O'Malley knew her shift should have ended an hour ago, but she was watching one of the city's most elusive patrons sway dangerously close to the polished oak stairs. "Sir, let me help you," Brenda, 28, offered. She'd learned that drunk, powerful men could be volatile, and her genuine kindness was often misinterpreted. "No, I don't need charity," he slurred, trying to steady himself. His dark hair disheveled, bespoke suit rumpled. It was Desmond Vance, the reclusive billionaire shipping magnate. Brenda hesitated. Recently, she'd noticed odd employee behavior when Desmond appeared. Hushed whispers, cut conversations, especially from the restaurant manager, a tall, imposing white man named Victor Madison, and his corporate clique. "Look, I'll just call you a taxi, okay? It's not safe to go out alone." Desmond struggled to focus. "You're not like the others. Why are you being nice to me? Everyone else just wants something." The question surprised Brenda. Perhaps it was growing up watching her father work 16-hour days as a security guard, understanding vulnerability. Or perhaps it was realizing the Emerald Anchor wasn't what it seemed. As they waited on the quiet, cobblestone street, Desmond mumbled about authentic people and second chances. Brenda thought it was the alcohol, but mentally noted his penthouse address. Unbeknownst to her, the restaurant's security system recorded every second, including the faint, almost imperceptible sound of Desmond deliberately spilling the gin on himself. The next day, Brenda arrived expecting a routine shift. She didn't know her kindness would be twisted against her. Head chef Genevieve Dubois, a meticulous Frenchwoman, greeted her with a strained look. "Brenda, I need to speak with you in my office now." The tension was palpable. Brenda's heart pounded. In 4 years, calls to the office rarely ended well for employees like her, especially when Victor Madison leaned casually against the desk, his smile promising trouble. Madison was the kind of man who used subtle racism, clear in his professional concerns and establishment standards that seemed to exclusively target black staff. Brenda had learned to read these codes early in life. "Sit down," Madison said, flipping a folder. "I've received complaints about your behavior with customers. You've been crossing lines." Brenda frowned. "What kind of lines?" "Harassing intoxicated clients, offering unsolicited services outside of working hours. Some would say you're trying to take advantage of vulnerable situations, especially with clients of Mr. Vance's caliber." The accusation hit Brenda hard. She knew exactly which night, but the distorted story left her speechless. Her decency was being twisted into something predatory. "I just helped a client get home safely," Brenda said, voice steady despite her rising anger. "Anyone would have done the same." Madison smiled coldly, revealing printed photos from security cameras. "Of course, that's what happened. The problem is we can't have employees like you leaving room for this kind of misunderstanding. Our clientele has certain expectations about discretion and appropriate boundaries." The heavy silence spoke volumes. Brenda realized that no matter her impeccable record, to Madison she was just another problem, another black woman who had forgotten her place. "So, what are you saying?" Brenda asked, knowing the answer. "I'm saying that maybe you should consider other career opportunities, places more suited to your profile." What neither could imagine was that, across town, Desmond Vance was having a very different conversation with his corporate security team. Desmond was much more sober that night than anyone suspected, and what he'd discovered about Madison's hiring practices was about to explode. Brenda's resignation came the following Friday, wrapped in corporate language, delivered by a nervous intern. Operating cost cuts was the official justification, but everyone knew Madison had gotten what he wanted. Brenda folded her uniform for the last time. Genevieve discreetly slipped an envelope into her hand. "Your tips from the last 6 months," the chef whispered. "They're rightfully yours." Walking home in the drizzling November rain, Brenda called her father, Patrick O'Malley, who was on his night shift. "Dad, I lost my job," she said bluntly. "Why? Did you do something wrong?" Patrick asked. "No, I did something right." There was a pause. Patrick knew his daughter well. "Come home. Let's talk about this." The 2-bedroom apartment where Brenda grew up smelled of disinfectant and strong tea. Patrick arrived at 6:30 a.m., still in his security uniform, to find Brenda surrounded by papers. "What's all this?" he asked. "I'm trying to understand something that happened at work," Brenda replied, showing him her notes. "Remember when you told me about that supervisor at Citicorp who always made excuses to transfer you to the roughest buildings?" Patrick nodded bitterly. McConnell. 30 years in security and never a problem, but with him it was always something. The only difference was that I didn't bow down to him like he wanted me to. That's exactly it. Madison did the same to me, only in a more sophisticated way. Brenda explained about Desmond, the fabricated accusations, and the pattern she'd noticed. Black and Asian employees reassigned or fired for minor infractions, while white employees committed them without consequence. "Daughter," Patrick said, resting his hand on hers, "sometimes life puts us in a position where we have to choose between accepting injustice or fighting against it. You know which choice I've always made." Brenda smiled for the first time in days. Patrick O'Malley had raised 5 children alone after his wife passed. He had faced racist supervisors and a system constantly trying to remind him of his place, and never once had he bowed his head. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I don't know yet, but I'm not going to pretend nothing happened." On Monday, Brenda returned to the Emerald Anchor as a customer. She observed Madison circling the room like a king, ignoring tables with non-white patrons. Then she saw Desmond Vance enter asking for a discreet bar table. Madison rushed to greet him, but Desmond dismissed him, preferring to silently watch the restaurant. Brenda realized he was observing too. When their eyes met, he gave her a small, imperceptible nod. That night, Brenda received a message. "Coffee tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., O'Connell Street Cafe. We have a lot to talk about, D." She stayed up late. 4 years had taught her that people like Desmond Vance didn't send messages to people like her without a specific reason. In her desk drawer, she kept a notebook detailing inconsistencies at the Emerald Anchor. Dates, times, strange conversations, special treatment for certain customers. Something instinctive told her this information would be important. Now, looking at her careful handwriting, Brenda began to understand. People who pay attention to details can become inconvenient when secrets are hidden. The O'Connell Street Cafe was hardly a billionaire's haunt. Brenda arrived early. Desmond showed up promptly at 9:30 a.m., composed and casual. "You were fired because of me," he said without preamble. "Madison said I filed a harassment complaint." Brenda nodded. "That's what he told me. That's a lie." Desmond pulled out his phone, showing an email from the Emerald Anchor thanking him for exceptional assistance and asking to congratulate the responsible employee. The date, time, everything matched. Madison had fabricated the complaint. "Why are you showing me this?" Brenda asked. Desmond smiled without humor. "Because my company has a significant stake in the Emerald Anchor's expansion, and for 6 months, I've been investigating a pattern of racial discrimination in hiring and firing, specifically targeting black staff. Brenda felt a jolt. You knew I was going to be fired? I suspected it. Madison has a problematic history. 4 black employees fired last year for minor infractions that white employees commit without consequence. A mixed-race waitress transferred to the kitchen despite customer compliments. You were next. He slid documents across the table. Contracts, reviews, customer complaints. Brenda recognized names of colleagues who had disappeared. Madison is systematically building a front-of-house team composed almost exclusively of white employees. He keeps a few other minorities in the kitchen, so it doesn't look too obvious, but anyone black in a visible position is gradually weeded out. Brenda studied the papers. How did you get all this? I'm an investor. I have access to human resources reports, and I have other personal reasons for wanting to see Madison face consequences. Over the next hour, Desmond revealed Madison's systematic rejection of diversity programs, his condescending talk about appropriate clientele, and how he filtered employees and customers not fitting his prejudiced vision. That night you helped me, Desmond continued. I wasn't truly drunk. I was testing how staff would react to a vulnerable customer. Madison saw me coming and disappeared. You were the only one who offered to help. So it was all staged? Brenda asked. The situation, yes. Your response, no. You genuinely cared, and that told me everything about your character. Desmond opened his laptop, showing hiring charts by ethnicity, retention statistics, promotion patterns. The case against Madison was built with mathematical precision. I'm putting together a lawsuit for systematic discrimination. I need employees willing to testify. Brenda looked at the data, then at Desmond. And you think I'm going to get other employees to take that risk? That's why I need you as coordinator. You know the people. You know who you can trust. Desmond closed his laptop. And there's something else. The opportunity to take over management of a new European fusion restaurant my company is opening in Cork. Shared ownership, profit split with employees, clear diversity policies. Brenda was silent. It was tempting, yet it made cruel sense. Desmond Vance didn't do charity, he did smart business. What's the real reason? She finally asked. Desmond smiled genuinely. Madison underestimated me because I'm quiet and reclusive. He's underestimating you because you're black and a mere waitress. People like him repeat the same mistakes of pride. Brenda thought of her father, the bills, the years of humiliation at the Emerald Anchor. If I do this, Brenda said slowly, it won't just be about getting a better job. It will be about making sure Madison faces the full consequences of what he did. Desmond held out his hand. That's exactly why I chose you. That afternoon, Brenda called 3 former colleagues. 2 agreed to meet. The third, Sierra, a kitchen assistant, agreed to secretly document ongoing discriminatory practices. Over the next 2 weeks, Brenda transformed into a meticulous organizer. She collected statements, recorded authorized phone conversations, and photographed documents Sierra accessed. Each new piece of evidence revealed the systematic discrimination. Madison wasn't just a casual racist, he was a deliberate architect of exclusion. Meanwhile, Madison continued his routine, unaware that every condescending word, every discriminatory decision was being documented. His arrogance had become his greatest vulnerability. He thought he had perfectly shaped his kingdom of privilege. But true justice grows in silence, fed by the patience of those who know the sweetest revenge is unseen. The meeting was scheduled for Monday at 10 a.m. at the Emerald Anchor corporate office. Madison arrived confident, expecting a routine discussion. He didn't know Brenda was watching via live video conference from an upstairs room. Desmond entered with 2 lawyers and a corporate ethics board representative. Madison greeted them with a fake smile. "Mr. Madison," Desmond began, opening a thick folder. "I need to discuss some hiring and firing standards." Madison chuckled. "Sure, we're always open to optimization. I hope you've noticed how I've maintained restaurant standards by eliminating problematic elements." The first lawyer turned on a projector. A detailed chart showed layoffs over 18 months. 100% of black front-of-house employees laid off, 80% of mixed-race employees reassigned to less visible positions, and 0 white employees fired for similar infractions. Madison's smile faltered. Those numbers, statistical coincidences. Desmond pressed the remote. The next screen showed recorded conversations. Madison talking about appropriate clientele, instructing supervisors to find infractions, and bragging about cleaning house. The color drained from Madison's face. "How did you get this? These recordings are illegal." "Actually," the second lawyer replied calmly, "all were made with the consent of at least one party, completely legal." Desmond clicked through internal emails, photos, signed statements, and the final bombshell. A video of Madison in his office, alone, celebrating Brenda's dismissal with champagne and one more problem solved. "Who recorded this?" Madison stammered, shaking. "Someone you completely underestimated," Desmond replied. "Someone who worked here for 4 years, watching, documenting every discriminatory decision." The door opened, and Brenda entered carrying a box of files. Madison stared as if seeing a ghost. "You," Madison whispered. "Impossible. You're just a black waitress you thought would be easy to get rid of." Brenda interrupted, placing the box on the table. "You're right. I was just that until you taught me that people like me need to be much smarter than people like you to survive." She opened the box, revealing months of meticulous documentation. "You've built such a clear pattern of discrimination that even a blind jury could see it." Madison stood, trying to regain control. "This is a setup. You can't prove anything. I have connections." Desmond smiled coldly. "You had connections. Past tense. He glanced at his watch. Approximately 15 minutes. This meeting will be broadcast live to the local press. In 30 minutes, every current employee will receive copies of this documentation. And in 1 hour, the corporate board will vote to fire you for cause." Madison's face was red, sweat pouring. "You can't do this. I built this place. I maintained the standards." "The standards you maintained," Brenda said, calm but firm, "were standards of hatred, exclusion, and abuse of power. You built nothing. You only destroyed people who were better than you." Desmond stood. "Mr. Madison, you are fired for systematic discrimination, hostile work environment, and violation of corporate policies. Your benefits are terminated. Your references will include a full report, and legal action will be taken personally against you." Madison staggered. "You've ruined my life, 20 years of my career." "No," Brenda replied, looking directly at him. "You ruined your own life the moment you decided that the color of your skin gave you the right to destroy the dignity of others. I merely documented your choices." As Madison was escorted out, Brenda watched from the window. Desmond approached. "How do you feel?" he asked. Brenda took a deep breath. "I don't feel vindicated. I feel free, like I can finally breathe without fear of being judged for existing." Outside, Madison desperately tried to call contacts, but news of his dismissal had already spread. His reputation, built on prejudice, was crumbling. Desmond looked at Brenda with genuine admiration. "You know, You could have just taken the job and left all this behind." Brenda smiled for the first time in weeks. "My father always taught me that when you have the power to make a difference, not doing so is also a choice. I chose to make a difference." 6 months later, Brenda stood in a forgotten dockside warehouse in Cork, watching designers transform it. The Compass Rose, it would be called, a statement. Desmond had fulfilled his promise even more generously. Brenda was co-owner with 30% stock and complete autonomy. Every employee would receive a share of the profits. "How many former Emerald Anchor employees did you hire?" Desmond asked. "Everyone who wanted to come," Brenda replied. "And some Madison fired years ago. Jenny is head server, Kiara runs the kitchen, and Genevieve is our culinary consultant." The irony was delicious. Madison had boasted about maintaining standards by eliminating talent. Now, those same employees were creating something that would make the Emerald Anchor irrelevant. Brenda's phone rang. Her father. "Daughter, I just saw a story about you. Are you sure it's not a dream?" Brenda laughed. The article was out. Former waitress who faced discrimination opens revolutionary restaurant in Cork. The photo showed Brenda and her diverse, genuinely smiling staff. "It's real, Dad. Remember that talk about dignity? Now I'm creating jobs where people are respected from day one." Meanwhile, Madison faced a different reality. The lawsuit had become a federal case. His connections evaporated. He couldn't get interviews for basic management. On the Compass Rose's opening day, Brenda felt genuine pride. It was an immediate success. Reservations booked for 2 months. Food critics praised the exceptional food and welcoming atmosphere. Ciara, now executive chef, approached Brenda during the rush. "Chef, Table 12 wants to thank you personally. They said they've never been treated so well." Brenda walked over. "We wanted to thank you personally," the lady said. "It's been so long since we felt truly welcome." This reminded Brenda why she fought, to create spaces where no one felt judged. A year after her resignation, Brenda was in her Compass Rose office reviewing proposals for a second location. Her father had retired, his expenses covered by Brenda. The staff had become family. Madison, Brenda last heard, was an assistant manager at a suburban fast food chain. Ironic. Brenda looked out, watching Cork's revitalized docklands. People of all colors and backgrounds passed, many stopping to read the Compass Roses menu. This was the community Madison tried to exclude. Now the foundation of Brenda's success. The best revenge wasn't destroying Madison. It was building something so good it made him irrelevant. While Madison languished, Brenda grew by creating opportunities. He tried to diminish her, but revealed his own insignificance. True victory isn't bringing down those who hurt you. It's achieving greatness they couldn't imagine. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who thought they were superior, you know that success is the most eloquent response there is. Subscribe for more stories that prove being rejected by the wrong people is the first step to finding where you truly belong.